The 49ers have had a major brain drain when it comes to coaching and the front office over the years, and apparently they are rewarding the ones that stay. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast. I'm your host, Rob Stats Guerrera, flying solo today. Johnny Dell is off. He'll be back next week. We'll do more film breakdowns, of course. But today, got a little bit of news in what is usually a traditional dead period. The 49ers have announced some changes to their front office. Now, it's not massive, earth-shattering, franchise-changing decisions, but news nonetheless. Matt Mayoko and others have tweeted it out. The biggest ones being Tariq Ahmad, who is now the vice president of player personnel, and RJ Gillen, who's now the assistant general manager, not to mention Brian Hampton, who's also the assistant general manager. Let's get to the first part. Tariq Ahmad and RJ Gillen. I take you all the way back to February of 2024, when the 49ers announced that Tariq Ahmad and RJ Gillen had been promoted. Basically, what happened was Adam Peters left to go to Washington. Niners promoted Ahmad and RJ Gillen to director of player personnel. They had the exact same title, and the responsibilities were that Tariq Ahmad was going to handle the college scouting, he was going to head that up, and RJ Gillen was going to handle the pro scouting for free agency, scouting for, if players get released and the 49ers need to make a pickup or something like that. That was going to be his major responsibility. Now, 16 months later, both of those guys are getting promoted again. Congratulations to them. As someone that worked at ESPN for a long time and then at NBC for a long time and didn't get any merit promotions despite taking on more and more responsibility, respect to those who can still find a way to get a merit promotion. The other thing I think that is not surprising, but I do think is interesting with this, is Brian Hampton becoming the assistant general manager. John Lynch now apparently has two assistant general managers, in RJ Gillen and Brian Hampton. I kind of sensed that something was happening with Brian Hampton when it came to the Brock Purdy negotiations, because he kept getting a lot of love. Like, Lynch gave him love. Purdy gave him love. He was thanked by both of them in the kind of press conferences that followed the Brock Purdy contract. And I think there was an article from Ian Rappaport or Tom Pelissero, one of them, about the contract talks that I talked about on this podcast, about how it was Brian Hampton that was doing the communication with Brock's team. And it was Brian Hampton that was working with Brock's team to sort of set the parameters on what they agreed with. And then Hampton would take that news to Parag Marathe and to John Lynch. So you could sort of see that this was coming. His role was sort of increasing within the team. And so now he is the assistant general manager. You can see some of the other names up there. Jason Kwan is a pro scout. Matt Plonsky is the vice president of football research and development. Corey Rush, the communications director, is now the executive vice president of communications. So that is the moves. Now, most of these are promotions, aka people that were with the 49ers that suddenly got bumped up to a new title and presumably a new salary. The one addition, and I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure I'm not, according to the 49ers, is Benjamin Klein. He was outside the organization. He is now the research and development performance analyst, different job. So I was like, who is this Benjamin Klein? So according to the press release the 49ers put out, he's been hired as an R&D performance analyst. He joins the Niners after multiple roles with Michigan State University's men's basketball program, along with stops with the Major League Soccer's FC Cincinnati, the Chicago Bulls, and the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So just out of kind of curiosity, just to sort of learn more about this person and who's going to be joining the 49ers, I was like, let me see if I could find them on LinkedIn. So I was like, hey, you know what? Let's do a quick search. And lo and behold, I did. There's Mr. Benjamin Klein. If you're watching on the stream, he's got the 49ers job in there, which congratulations to you. Keeps the LinkedIn profile up to date. He was with Michigan State for 2 years and 11 months. And I'm trying to figure out, what did he do there? Because I'm trying to figure out, what he'll do with the 49ers eventually. Apparently, he oversaw all sports science and basketball analytics operations, and he was serving as the assistant strength and conditioning coach. So I'm curious, like, is this guy going to be more on the analytics side, or is he going to be more part of the kind of health staff trying to keep people healthy? Because let's be honest, this season for the 49ers, they need better health than they have had in recent years. They are not a super deep team. They are a top heavy team. They need their guys to be healthy. Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy, first and foremost, of course, all those guys. And so something had to change, right? That would be my kind of point in all this, was that whatever the 49ers were doing in their health and their injury prevention, it wasn't working. They've been top 10 most injured teams every year of Shanahan's career except one. The 1 year was 2023, where they kicked everybody's ass and went to the Super Bowl. So they have not had success mostly avoiding injuries and bouncing back from injuries and that kind of thing. And I like the fact that they're bringing in somebody from outside the organization to maybe kind of help with that, right? A new perspective, new programs, new thinking. At least they're trying something to change, because clearly what they have had hasn't been good enough. So I like that they are at least doing something to try and change it. He was with Michigan State, had multiple roles there. And then you can see he was with FC Cincinnati with the Bulls. He was an intern, a strength and conditioning intern with the Bulls. So anyway, look, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what kind of impact he's going to have. Nobody does, right? And if anyone's telling you that he's going to revolutionize anything, I think they're kind of, talking more through rose-colored glasses than anything else. But I did like the fact that it was them going outside the organization to try and help out in an area where clearly they needed help. You needed some fresh thinking. Something had to change. And that it might not work, but what you do know is that what they had been doing wasn't working. So hopefully it will change. But I think the biggest takeaway from these promotions and these restructurings is the Brian Hampton thing. I think that, we kind of immediately jump to Parag Marathe when we talk about contracts and negotiations and all that stuff. I think maybe that's kind of changing now with the fact that they have another soccer club that 49ers Enterprises has to worry about. I think that Parag is going to kind of be doing his own thing and probably maybe stepping away from the football side. And Brian Hampton is going to be the main guy now. And then that he's going to be the one. So if you want to blame someone when the time comes, I think aim your wrath at Brian Hampton instead of Parag Marathe is what I'm thinking. We talked to Dieter Kurtenbach, and he talked basically about how Parag is really kind of never around, and he sort of swoops in if there are problems with the negotiation. And sometimes that leads to sort of talks having to restart. And that's why some of the things with the 49ers have taken so long when it comes to getting contracts done and that kind of a thing. So that was sort of how that was working. And maybe that won't happen now. Maybe it'll be less like that because Brian Hampton is there and he'll be the one, the main contact, and there won't be this sort of game of telephone and sort of a stop and start when it comes to contract negotiations. I also like the fact that basically they don't have many more to worry about, major ones, right? They locked up Kittle. They locked up Purdy. They locked up Warner. I mean, who's the biggest free agent that they have to worry about after this season? I would argue that there aren't many, if any at all, on the list. So it's a nice place to be if you're the 49ers. So that was just the little bit of news. Apparently, I'm just seeing on the Corey Rush thing, he was the communications executive vice president. And the Niners, I didn't realize this, won in 2024 the award for the best PR group in the league. That is interesting. I know a lot of 49ers content creators that might disagree with that designation, but nonetheless. So that's the little bit of news with the 49ers. Again, I'm not going to try and tell you that these are going to lead to championships or anything. But a little bit of restructuring for the Niners. And like I said, they're adding some outside help. And hopefully that should help or could help with the injuries. Who knows if it will. Now, something else I want to talk about. I'm kind of going through it a little bit here, and I need your help. I am, as we've talked about on this show, a Niner fan first and foremost. I love football, clearly. But I also follow the NBA. I'm an Oklahoma City Thunder fan. They, of course, are in the NBA Finals tonight, and I'm having like PTSD because if the Thunder win tonight, they win the championship. And I'm sitting here, and all I could think about is the heartbreak of the 49ers losing the Super Bowl in 2023, losing the Super Bowl in 2019, losing the Super Bowl in 2012. I was texting with my brother a little bit, and he was like, "Are you nervous? How are you feeling?" And what I said to him was, "I'm tired of watching my team lose championships. I was a Sonics fan in 96 when they lost to the Bulls. The 49ers I mentioned, 2012, 2019, 2023. The Thunder got to the NBA Finals in the 2011-2012 season, lost to the Miami Heat. 2012 was a real festival for me. Two of my teams got to the championship game and lost. I'm tired of seeing them lose championships. So I'm kind of freaking out a little bit." And I was thinking about the Thunder, and there's a lot of actual parallels to the 49ers that kind of went off in my head. And the reason is because, I think Kyle Shanahan is looked at, by a lot of people as, hey, he's a great coach, and he's gotten a lot of praise. Of course, Mike Silva wrote the book about him, and the Play Callers podcast that about that group, and Shanahan and McVay and all that. And I think there's a lot of people out there, especially 49ers fans, that think that Kyle Shanahan is overrated, right? That he's not any good, that he shouldn't be getting all this praise because he's never won a championship, and they don't like it. And they think that it's premature, basically, and he hasn't earned it yet, essentially. Well, that is exactly how people feel about Sam Presti, the GM of the Thunder. He always gets a ton of praise. I think he was voted recently as like the league's top executive, has never won a championship. His team lost the finals. His team blew, I think, they were up 3-1 to the Warriors, and they blew that series, and the Warriors came back and won. So Sam Presti is kind of like Kyle Shanahan, a guy that has gotten a lot of love, has done some amazing things, both built incredible rosters. Sam Presti had 3 MVPs on the Thunder at the same time, or 3 guys that would go on to win an MVP on the roster, 3 guys that are going to be in the NBA Hall of Fame on the roster at the same time, only made 1 NBA Finals and lost it. Now he's back. He's built the roster up again, right? They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They got J-Dub. They've got Chet Holmgren there, and they look really good. They've had an historic regular season, and they've had a great run in the playoffs too, but they haven't done it yet. And so I feel like he's sort of in the Kyle Shanahan boat. Now, if he can finish it off, it's completely different, right? Then he has the championship to back up all the praise. Obviously, we know Kyle Shanahan didn't do that. But if you're looking for an example of an executive or a person in the front office on a team who had a great team, had to tear it down, and was trusted to build it up again, Sam Presti is the perfect example for the Thunder. That's exactly what Kyle Shanahan is trying to do right now. He's trying to rebuild the roster after getting to a championship with a historically great team and not winning it. He's exactly trying to do what Sam Presti is doing. If the Thunder win, maybe Kyle needs to call him up on the phone. Hey, how did you do that, Sam? In a league where the Thunder, are, I think, the second smallest market in the league, and Sam Presti's been able to do it. J. Cruz, 49er, says, don't worry, stats. OKC will win it. Also, why are you a Seattle fan? Because I didn't want to be forced to choose my teams out of the teams that were closest to me. I didn't want to have to choose between the Jets, Giants, Patriots, Yankees, Red Sox. So I picked teams that were far away when I was a kid. Mariners, Sonics, Niners. Now the Sonics obviously moved, so I followed the Thunder when they moved. Andre Garibay says he's a good play caller. He just sucks at evaluating quarterbacks. JM 617 says acting like a fresh regime on borrowed time. I don't think the 49ers are acting like a fresh regime. I think that they're trying to do what they think is best. I think that they, need to win. They can't have another losing season. I'll say that. That would certainly put them on thinner ice than they're on right now. But, I mean, if they get back to the playoffs next year, is anybody really going to be calling for Kyle Shanahan to be fired? Right? Like, everybody thinks, the 49ers window is closed and all that stuff. If they get back to the playoffs, are you going to be saying Shanahan needs to go? Now, I get it. If they have a losing season, that's a totally different argument, right? That would be more losing seasons than winning seasons for Kyle Shanahan in his time with the Niners. But if they get back to the playoffs, who's going to be sitting there saying, fire Kyle Shanahan? I don't think that would be a thing. So, yeah, they're in a bit of a precarious place, but I don't think they're on borrowed time. I think they've earned the time that they've been given, quite frankly. But so that's what I'm going through tonight. I'm freaking out. The game's in Indiana, so the Thunder are on the road. I don't know if I have the stamina to just watch my team lose another championship. It's devastating. I remember how down I was after the Super Bowl, and I remember saying to you, I don't even know if a championship would make me feel any better because they've lost 2, right? It hurts so much to watch your team lose a championship. And that's where I am. I'm like terrified to what my son wants to watch every minute of it. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. Can I go through this? Now, if they win it, obviously I'll be happy. But if they don't, like, it'll just be an absolute gut punch. Is there a limit for you as the fan to just the amount of pain that you're willing to take and tolerate? I don't know if there is for me, but I feel like if there is, we're getting pretty damn close to it, right? The team losing the championship thing, man, I'm over it. I've done it. But give me the other thing. I've seen one championship from one of my teams in my life, and it was the Niners in 1994. And there was a tweet, actually, I should bring it up, from my good friend Jake Allen Bogan, who covers the Rams. He's a content creator for the Rams, who apparently one day this week just woke up and chose violence. And he had one tweet, and there was no words or 2 words in the tweet, I should say. Good morning were the 2 words. And it was just a picture. I don't know if you saw this. And it got me. It stung me deep. And here's the picture if you're watching the stream. On one side of the poster board, it says Rams Super Bowl highlights with a QR code. And on the other side of the poster board, there's a Niners logo. It says Super Bowl highlights, and it's a VHS tape. And I feel like I have to explain that because there's a lot of people watching that don't even know what that is. That photo says more. That is such a slap in the face to 49er fans. It's a burn, and it's a good one. And I saw it, and I was thinking about it all day, and it just drove me nuts. But there's nothing we can say, right? What's our comeback going to be? Will we have more total championships overall? Yeah, great, but they were a long time ago now. The most recent championship was 30 years ago. So this is a win for Rams fans, man. That is such a good photo. That got me. It hurt me deep. And I have no response to it. There's nothing. Even Cowboys fans, as much as we like to make fun of the Cowboys and dunk on the Cowboys because they haven't made an NFC championship game since 1995, well, guess what? They won the Super Bowl that year. They've won a Super Bowl more recently than our 49ers have won a Super Bowl. As much as we like to dunk on them, that is a statement that is true. I know it's only 1 year. I get all of that. I get all of that. But it's been a minute. It has been a minute. And I am ready for that minute to be over, man. Andre says, the Niners losing their last 3. We should be used to it. Of course, it sucks. I want to see a ring as an adult. In 94 against the Chargers, I was 9. Me too, Andre. Amen. And honestly, 94 was a rough year for me. I was 9 in 94. It was great that the Niners won the Super Bowl, but my dad was very sick. He actually died in October of that year. So, I had a lot going on that year. I don't know that I was ever really able to fully capture and appreciate the Super Bowl. And I certainly didn't have the perspective of how rare it was and how much I should have enjoyed it. It was just like, oh, the Niners were good. Because remember, in the 90s, the Niners won 10, 12 games every year. They went to the playoffs every year. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was like, oh, okay, they finally won this time. All right, good. We beat the Cowboys. I mean, that was a big deal beating the Cowboys finally. But I didn't have the perspective of, hey, this is really freaking amazing. And it doesn't happen all the time. And you should cherish it. I was 9 years old. You don't have any perspective when you're 9 years old. So I think winning it now would be so much different. Number one, just because I'm older. Number two, my son is a huge 49er fan, and getting to see him experience that joy would bring it to another level of happiness for me, even beyond just my own personal happiness. When you can experience things through the eyes of your kids, that changes a lot for you. So that would be massive. And number three is I get to share it with all of you. I remember thinking about this when the Niners were in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, thinking if they do win, what do I do? Because I want to watch the celebration and cheer and all of that and enjoy it. But also, I like to start the instant reaction show immediately, right? I like to get going right out of the gate. But I'm sure all of you would be celebrating as well. So I actually talked with Levin about hey, what if they win? What do we do Do we want to, how do we want to handle that? And I think his thing was like, enjoy it for a minute, but then just go because you're going to be, that post-game show would probably be 2 to 3 hours long. Who knows how long we would go if they ever actually won it. So, but I remember thinking about that, but winning it now would be amazing. And getting to share it with all of you would be incredible, quite honestly. Because, like, look, I see who's in the chat all the time. I'm doing shows every day, and I feel like we have a community here. We have there's a group of us, a core group of people. Of course, we love everybody in the chat, but I see the people that are there day after day. It would be fun to experience that with you. 100%. So that would be just multiple levels of sheer joy for me. But when I saw this tweet from Jake, and I love Jake, he does awesome work for the Rams. He's my favorite Rams content creator that's out there. I don't think anybody covers the team better than he does. But man, this photo got me. This photo got me big time. Grand Sport Jew says, tough being a Niner fan born in May of 94. All I know is close but no cigar. That is brutal. My condolences to you. That is a life of pain, quite frankly. There's a guy that used to host radio on WFAN in New York around here, and his trademark phrase is, "Oh, the pain," because he's a Jets fan and a Mets fan. I totally get it. That is brutal, and that's all I've known since '94 too. Hiram Wallace says losing the Super Bowl sucks, but I enjoyed those seasons. Going 6-11 is depressing. That's true, and that's why they're not the same. And I hear people say that sometimes, like, oh, what's the difference? You didn't win the Super Bowl, or if you're 6-11, it's like, yeah, you didn't win the Super Bowl both times, but clearly one is a more enjoyable experience. Nobody's going to argue that it's the same experience going 6-11 as opposed to losing the Super Bowl. It's not even close. And sports is entertainment for us, right? I know, especially watching the Mariners, right? Baseball is the best example of this. I wake up because they play at night sometimes, and I wake up, the first thing I do is check my phone, and I look and see, did the Mariners win the game? And if the Mariners won the game, as much as I try to, be a grown-up and adult, it does change my mood. I get cranky when they lose. I don't like it when they lose. I don't like it when they're bad. So when you have a winning season and a playoff season, that means that most of the time when you check your phone and you're following the team, you get that good feeling, right? You feel good emotionally. It affects your mood. And so, yeah, losing the Super Bowl sucks, but you get that whole period of time where you're riding high and you're feeling those emotions. And that means the majority of your time in that time period, you feel good. And I feel like that's, kind of the goal of life, isn't it? Is to spend as much time as possible feeling good and feeling happy. So, yeah, I get that losing the Super Bowl stinks, but those seasons are better than 6-11. They just are. I'll defend that to the death. Maybe you don't agree. Andre says the last 3 losses have been brutal. Not being able to sleep and thinking what they could have done different, like I was part of the team. Being a fan can suck sometimes. Well, just, for me in this job, I think about how my job and my day-to-day life would have been different if Kyle Shanahan had won one of those Super Bowls, right? If he had won one of those Super Bowls, nobody is talking about firing him. It's not even a thought on anybody's mind, right? Even if he had, obviously the one with the Falcons is separate. I'm talking about as a head coach. If he had won one of the Super Bowls, nobody would be talking about firing him. The way he is talked about and discussed and the feeling of 49er fans of him would be completely different. Completely different. I think that John Lynch probably is not the general manager of this team if the 49ers had won. He might still be if they had won in 2023, but if they had won in 2019, he was gone. He was going to take that Amazon job. It wouldn't be Kirk Herbstreit doing the games for Amazon Prime on Thursdays. It'd be John Lynch because you make basically the same money, more or less, and you got way less stress. And John Lynch would have his ring as an executive. And he's sort of talked about that. So that would definitely change how we feel about John Lynch and how we feel about Kyle Shanahan. Iceman 0072 says the Niners were the Patriots before the Patriots in the 80s and 90s. Jay Cruz says Rams won one in the QR era. Dude is acting like the Rams are the Chiefs. No, I don't think he's acting like the Rams are the Chiefs, but he's certainly right to bring up the fact that the Rams and the Seahawks have Super Bowls more recently than the 49ers. He didn't bring up the Seahawks. I did, but that's just the reality. Luke the Don says, I'm in Oklahoma and everyone here is on pins and needles praying they win so we can celebrate with a huge parade. Yeah, that parade is going to be nuts. And the game in Indiana is going to be nuts tonight, too. Andre says if Kyle had a ring, he'd been a made man in San Francisco. He would have. Cynthia, YouTube channel member, says hello. Shout out, Cynthia, and all our YouTube channel members. We appreciate it. So yeah, I was just having flashbacks to the thought of and the feeling of losing the championship. Look, I've spent many nights thinking about, if Nick Bosa had made that tackle on Patrick Mahomes on 4th down, Brock Purdy would have a championship, and the Niners would have a championship, and McCaffrey would have one, and Fred, and all that. I've thought about it. I watch the Super Bowl highlights once a week. Constantly, I watch them. If Kyle Shanahan didn't have George Kittle in the backfield on that 3rd down at the 2-minute warning for some reason, and then would Brock Purdy have had more time to get the pass off, to complete it, to get the 1st down? And the fact that if they have gotten that 1st down, they basically could have run out the rest of the clock, and they knew it. They knew it. Trent Williams says to Brock Purdy in the huddle, hey, man, if we get this, it's basically over. Like, they knew it. They knew what they had. Ugh. I will never not be mad about it. I will never get over it. And even if the 49ers go on to win 10 more championships, I will still always feel like we should have had at least one more, maybe 2. Honestly, maybe 3. The game in 2012, I'm convinced if you replayed that game on 99 more times, the Niners would win every single one of them. That is the thing that has driven me crazy. They have had the better team every time. They were the better team in 2012. The Ravens only got there in 2012 because the Broncos safety screwed up the defense. The game was over at the end of the game, and Joe Flacco throws the bomb, and the Broncos safety completely screws up his play, mistimes the jump. Ravens score the touchdown, and then they go on to win. It's not like they were a juggernaut that year. The Niners had the best team. They had Colin Kaepernick, who the league had never seen before. And really he was making his 10th start in the Super Bowl. So they didn't really even have that much data on him. He was running around like crazy. Gore, Vernon Davis, that defense, Alden Smith, Justin Smith, you all know it. They had the better team that year. They had the better team in 2019. They had the better team in 2023. I'm sorry. I get it. The Chiefs are the champions, and I'm not trying to take that away. I'm just saying, you look at the rosters, the better team was in San Francisco, and they lost the games. And that is the thing that just burns the hell out of me, right? Because we spend all this time talking about the team, analyzing the team, reacting to what they do. Who should they sign? Who did they sign? Who should they draft? Who did they draft? How did the draft picks play, right? And the whole goal of that, through all that time and effort and the hours spent and the time of people like Tariq Ahmad and RJ Gillen, who were just promoted today, and all that stuff, is to assemble the best possible team. And the 49ers did that. And they didn't just assemble the best possible team. They assembled an incredible team. And they still didn't win. It still wasn't enough. And that will forever burn in my gut. Andre says, Stats likes pain. Goes back and watches the Super Bowl. Probably watches the Titanic, hoping it won't sink this time. I still think in 2012, when Frank Gore breaks away at the end of that game, that he's going to score. I really do. Like, I still, if you watch it and you look, you're like, oh my God, he's going to go. Cynthia says, I was at the game in 2012. Why didn't Frank Gore or Kaepernick run the ball instead of throw? Well, I think that they actually had, if you remember the end of that game in 2012, the Niners got down to the red zone and they did this stupid thing where they'd have different people in charge of the play call in the red zone and a different guy in charge of it on 3rd down. Remember, they always struggled to get the play in on time. It was like a constant chronic problem for those Harbaugh teams because of the way they divided up the duties. And so the Niners are getting in the red zone there, and I believe it was 1st down, and the play clock is running down, and the Niners sideline call timeout. But I think, if I remember correctly, that they were going to do like a zone read with Kaepernick. And I think that was the goal of that first play in that sequence, was that they were going to put the ball in his hands and let him run. And obviously they called a timeout. We all know what happened from there. And I'll go to my grave saying that Michael Crabtree was held in the end zone on 4th down. I will go to my grave forever saying that. And I'll see Jim Harbaugh doing the holding, freaking out, doing the holding hand motion on the sidelines forever. And I just remember thinking, it can't really end like this. It can't. This is not how this season ends. That one hurt. Oh, man. That one hurts forever. Just brutal. Anyway, so that's what I'm going through tonight. And I don't know if the Thunder win, if that will ease the pain that I felt from the other championships. I don't know. honestly, I've never had another one of my teams win a championship, so I have no idea. But I am freaking out about it. And it did make me think about Kyle and, the similarities there between a guy that's trying to build a team up for a second time. And, maybe if Presti can get it done, maybe there's hope for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and the Niners. Who knows? Anyway, that's going to do it for this show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I just wanted to pop in and talk about those front office promotions because it was a thing that happened and it will have effects on the team. So I just wanted to talk to you about it. Thanks for nursing me through the situation that I'm going through with my Thunder. I appreciate it. We all go through these things together. And hopefully we can help each other through it, right? If we can't help each other, what the hell else are we doing? Anyway, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody. I'll be back with Michelle tomorrow. Don't worry. She's not going anywhere. And we'll talk soon.